Moment. How's everybody doing? Okay?
Yes, do I need the mic? I need the mic.
Keep people awake. No, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Guys, have you had one of those moments where you've just walked out of the house in the night and you've sort of looked up in the sky and you've just seen this huge, amazing moon just like looking back at you? Have you ever had that moment? And it's just been like, wow. Like, you know, one of those blood red moons, or you've just seen this like full moon. And there's one by our house every now and again where you just see it coming over the top of the mountain. And you just like, whoa, and everywhere you move is just like this powerful, powerful picture. And in this moment, you just like realize, like, if you're not a Christian, you're like, whoa, this is pretty awesome. And it makes you sort of like question things. But if you are a Christian, you just like revel and just you're in awe of the creation of God at this moment. And for me, I just think like, it just makes me feel small in like in the big situation. I'm like, wow, you know, in this moment, I feel this way. Or have you been staring or gazing up at the heavens and just be amazed at the stars in the sky? Anybody camping? Anybody love a bit of camping? I love a bit of camping. One of the main things I love in the night is when everybody just goes to bed, I'll just sit out on the chair and just look up at the heavens and just the clear sky in the summer. And we just see the stars. And it just comes to me, Psalm 8 comes to me, and it just says like, the Message version says this, right? It says, I look up at the macro skies, dark and enormous, your handmade sky jewelry, the moon and the stars mounting in their settings. That's powerful, isn't it? Powerful stuff. And then you look at the NIV and it says, when I consider your heavens, the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, you see the like awesome power of God when you look up at that moment. I had one of these moments a few weeks ago where you just sort of like look up in awe at the moon and the stars and their awesomeness, even on like a cloudy night. When I looked up at the moon just shone through and it was like the clouds just cleared out of the way when the moon was there. But with the focus that I'm speaking on, right, it's all about living a life of influence. And this will make sense in a second. Living a life of influence. And what Mav has introduced us with, do you know the importance of influence in your family is going to run throughout my message tonight. I want us to think of these awesome things of creation and how it can influence in our own lives. Over the last couple of weeks that I've preached, I've talked about our attitudes linked with the Beatitudes and how we are to rely on Jesus for his grace to get into heaven. We're all on an equal playing field until we accept Jesus. I won't go into that in too much depth, but if you want to know more, ask me about that later. Being hungry for more, we talked about. Being hungry for more of Jesus. Those who hunger, they want more of Jesus. We talked about wanting to be filled with Jesus. Filled with him. Do you want to be filled with Jesus, with his Holy Spirit? I hope you do, because that's where we're going to go further into tonight. We want to be merciful, we want to talk about. We want to be pure and peacemakers. We talked about these things. And then we jumped on to talking about being salt. And being salt that brings taste. Jesus tells his disciples to be salt of the earth. And we talked about bringing a taste to the world. To preserving things. A salt that preserves the things of God. We talked about a salt that kills diseases and purifies things. But mainly that we bring a taste. You bring this awesome taste to the world. And then Jesus in Matthew 5 on the Sermon of the Mount, he goes on and he tells his disciples to be light. So you're to be salt and you're to be light. That's what we're going to look at tonight. So if you want to turn in your Bibles to Matthew 8:14, we're going to go there. It says, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp or put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on the stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, if you were paying attention then, it starts somewhere, it moves somewhere else, and then it goes on to a third place. I'll tell you more on that in a second. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. And he points to the first place where we are to be light. He says this, instead they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Jesus says, you start in the house. That's what he's saying here. Everyone in their own home needs to be the light. Then you can share with others, Jesus says. In the same way, let your light shine before others. And then the world will see who you are. So when I'm using my board here, we're going to just draw this really quickly. We're going to start in the home. The old traditional house. Happy with that? You can tell I'm an artist. When you go from the house, you're able to do it to others. Once you do it to others, the world will see you for who you are. That's the steps Jesus is saying. Often, we want to go from the world first, before we go others. And then the last place we're doing it is in the house. But Jesus is telling us here, you start in the home, then you pass on to others, then the world will see you for who you truly are. When I had this moment of staring into the heavens, and it just caught me, I began wondering about this moon that I was looking at. I began wondering, and I realized in that moment that without the sunlight, there would be no moonlight. Like, it just dawned on me in that moment, like, even though I've probably been told it, I've been taught it in school, that moonlight that I'm looking at is actually a reflection of the sunlight. So the world, obviously being round, the sun is round the other side, but it's bouncing up off the moon and down to me. And so it's reflecting that. There are two great lights in the world, the sun and the moon. And the moon's job is to reflect the light of the sun like a mirror. That's its job. Let me go spiritual for a minute. There's one great light in the spiritual world. And we see him in John 8. Jesus. He says this, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus is the light of the world. Our job is like the moon. We are to reflect the light of Jesus. As the moon reflects the light of the sun and lights up the darkness, we are to reflect the light of Jesus to light up that darkness. That's what your job is, to reflect the light of Jesus. Such importance to be light. I'm going to go through an acronym with you now. This is where the teacher in me comes out. We're going to go through the acronym of light. Okay? So we're going to go L-I-G-H-T. And we're going to talk about each step of being light. This is what James says in the book of James. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. So our first step of being light of the world is to do this. Listen. I want us to be listeners. People who listen. Listening to someone is one of the greatest ways you can reflect the light of Jesus. Preempt this, we're all starting where? At home. We're starting at home. Now, I have had to learn the hard way. I've had to learn a hard way, mainly because I'm a man. And learning the hard way as a man looks like this. Because us men, we just want to fix stuff. Right? The men in the room will know what I'm talking about. We just want to fix stuff, okay? And so, when I was early on in being married, he's off. So Laura would come to me with her problems. Laura would come to me with her problems. Men, married men will know what I'm talking about with this. And I thought, as a young man, it was my job to fix those problems. This is marriage advice for those who are not yet married as well, because no one told me this, right? No one told me this. It was my job to fix their problems. So like when Laura was like, oh, I've got this going on in work, this person, so on, so on, so on. I would be like, well, I've got the answers. So I will give you the answers and I will help you. Don't worry about it. Don't have to thank me. That's the way a man's mind works. Okay? I had to learn the hard way that what Laura really needed was me to just listen to her. All she wanted was for me to just listen and acknowledge her problems. Listening is so, so important. So that's for us men. What about the women in the room? Wives. You need to know that your husband needs to be listened to. Some men don't talk a lot, but when we do, make sure you're listening. Listen to them. Be encouraged. Encourage your husband to know that he is needed or wanted. I scroll through social media sometimes and I hear women on social media and things like that saying, oh, we don't need men. We don't need men in our society. We don't need this masculinity. We don't need this toxic masculinity. And don't get me wrong, we don't need the toxic side of things. We don't need that. But we do need masculinity. In a world where cheap arguments are just thrown out and where everybody is tarred with the same brush, all men want to know is that they're needed. That's all we want to know. All we want to know is that we're needed. No wonder, if there is a message going out that men aren't needed, that there are young men stuck in their bedrooms playing on video games and not going out into the world. This is the epidemic that we have. Okay? I was going to spout a load of data at you, but I'm not going to. If you're feeling unwanted, if you're feeling lonely, you are not going to put yourself out there. Because they're being told they're not needed. Wives, build your husbands up. Listen to them. Don't just hear them, but listen. When you listen to someone, okay, and this is really important, Proverbs 18:21 says, a fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinion. What's that telling us? Don't just give your point of view on everything. Listen. Listen first, okay? Let's move on to our children. We're starting at home. It's really important. Rick Warren, the legend, describes children as clams. When I first heard that, I was like, what is he talking about? There is no better description of children, and I love this description because he says you never know how long a clam is going to be open for. So take advantage when it is. I'm learning this right now, in my own life. When you think everything is all great and dandy, then the clam opens and it all comes out, that it's not all great and dandy. You've got to learn to listen to our children. Be ready to listen when the clam opens. Home is where it starts. Home is where it starts. When you've mastered listening at home, you will be able to listen outside of your home. You know when someone doesn't listen at home, because it's those people you talk to and their eyes glaze over, or they're looking everywhere else other than what you're talking about. It's those people who haven't learned to listen at home, and so they can't listen outside of home. You know what I'm talking about in that. You also find in Luke, when Luke is writing about this section of Jesus saying, be light. Because this is all about being light. Jesus literally finishes in Luke by saying this. Therefore, consider carefully how you listen. Listening is so important. It is the first thing that we can do in being light for Jesus. The second thing we're going to move on to is this: include others. To be light, we listen and we include others. Do you know there's a saying that I really don't like? It's one of my all-time favourite sayings that I don't like. It's called, that person is the black sheep in the family. You know that cousin? You know that uncle? They're the black sheep in the family. This winds me up when I hear people say that. Because there's an idea of segregation, of separation, of a difference in that phrase that labels the person not to be included in that family. People who speak about others as different. I mentioned last week that each of us that has a mark that is stamped on us. And it's the Maker's mark. It's important that we recognize that everybody you come across, Christian or non-Christian, has the Maker's mark stamped on them. And so how you treat the Maker is how you treat the Maker's mark. It's really important that we get on to that. Remember, the starting point of being light is at home. We are to include others in our families. The reason why we choose the word include here, or the reason why I chose it, the word include, or maybe I could be talking about being united. Not that type of united. We don't want to go there. But we do want to be united. Or as Jesus says, and time again, and I love this, he says, be one. Be one. How can you be one when you're the black sheep? There's no room for that. Jesus declared it time and time again. There is one church, one body, one shepherd, one fold, one saviour, one mission, one God, and we are that one church. We are that one church. Our mission is to include others. That's how we show light. But let's come back to the practicalities of home. Do you know connections are being lost at home more quickly than ever before? And subtly there is a war on families. There is a war on families. Each one of us needs to make a conscious choice to include the other people in our families, the members of the families in our lives. It is a conscious choice to phone that person. It is a conscious choice to invite that person over for lunch. You have to consciously do it in our thoughts and in our actions. Consciously involving other people points to the conscious choice of God including you in his plans. Do you realize that God consciously chose you to be in his plans? That you were consciously chosen to be here on the 15th of March 2026, in this moment? It's his sign of love and belonging to you. And we are desperate as people. We are desperate as people to belong. We all want to belong to something. Do you know what darkness does? Darkness isolates. Darkness isolates. That's what it does. It says, go to your bedroom. It says, go to your own house. Don't go out anywhere else. Darkness isolate. Do you know what else darkness does? It shames. Shames. I'm on my own in this. There's no one else going through this who's going through what I'm going through. Darkness shames you. Darkness separates. It separates you. It hides you away. And it does all these things subtly without anybody knowing. But let me tell you, light includes. Light includes others. It unites. It makes us one. That's what light does. And when we learn this in our homes, we put it into practice in our homes. When we're involving others, including others. I don't know who those others might be that maybe come into your mind right now. Maybe it's a family across the street from you. Maybe it's a person that you connect with. But the Lord will lead you to others. If you are not including others right now in your mission, another family, another person, I want to encourage you to pray. To pray, Lord, let me include someone else in my journey. Let me include someone else in my life that I can bring them to you, Jesus. As we do this in our own homes, before others, the world will see you for who you really are. It starts at home, it moves to others, and then the world will see you for who you really are. The next one, G. Generosity. I have to check the spelling on that. Generosity. First we listen. We include others, then we become generous. We're a generous people. Generosity and giving to others shows your true self. Billy Graham says this: give me 5 minutes with a person's checkbook and I'll tell you where their heart is. That's challenging, isn't it? But generosity isn't just about money. It can be and should be about money in your life, but I'm not preaching on that. Generosity reflects the light of Jesus. We serve a generous God. We serve a generous God. Proverbs says this: don't withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. It is in your power to act. You need to act. It also says this: whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. Amen? What does being generous look like at home? Being generous looks like simply being helpful. Being helpful. Being kind. Do you know what I also think being generous looks like? Exceeding expectations. Exceeding expectations. We've all been out for that meal and someone says to you, oh, that's a generous portion. Oh, that's a good one. You've got a good one there. Generous portion there. We've all had that meal. There's nothing better when something exceeds your expectations. Now, I've had some news this week. I work in a school with 50 women and one other man. The other man has decided to retire. Yes, I know. Do you know what I've noticed from working with a lot of women? That they have expectations of their husbands. We all have expectations of people. But we husbands, we often don't live up to the expectation. I'm not going to lie. But we don't always live up to that expectations. But I want to encourage us here, husbands and wives, be generous to each other. Try and exceed the expectations of your husband and your wife by being kind, by being helpful, and being unselfish. How that would look in each relationship will differ. But I want to encourage you to be generous at home, to be generous to each other, to give to each other. What about your children? Being generous to your children isn't just giving them stuff. The last thing the children need today is more stuff. It's about modeling generosity. That's what being generous looks like. Modeling generosity. That you foster in your children an attitude of generosity and not of greed. Children model our behavior. That's what they do. Children model our behavior. You are you today because of your parents. End of. Whether they were good or bad. That's who you are because of your parents. You are who you are today because of your parents. And that can be really uncomfortable saying that. It can be really uncomfortable if you've been through things with your parents. But for others of you, you have had a model of an attitude of generosity. You have had a model of being generous parents. As we learn and teach generosity, God is very quickly points us to others. As you're generous to those in your home, he very quickly points you to generosity to others. Giving what we are prompted to support, to bless, to feed, to clothe others rather than yourself. This is why Christians are the biggest givers to churches, to charities, and to those in need within the UK, without compare. As I was reading through this data, this giving data, there was no discrepancy, and I love this, there was no discrepancy about who Christians give to. Christians throughout the UK will give to anything because they have been taught through generation and generation and generation to be generous. We are to be light through listening, through including others, through generosity, but also we are to help others. Being generous by helping others. Now, helping others, I know, is just this like broad spectrum, isn't it? What does that look like? But let me tell you, there's no one Jesus didn't come to help. Financial problems? Yeah, Jesus can help. Depression, sickness, homelessness, addiction, Jesus can help. There are numerous ministries and testimonies in this room right now who have things that I have mentioned in that list that Jesus has gone, there we are. He is able to do it. Jesus can help. And often, do you know what I love about it? Jesus often uses or chooses to use those that are in need through his church to reflect his life. That is his disciples, to reflect his light. It says in Matthew 25, I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. I'm not sure if anybody saw that documentary about the BBC documentary about Rob Parsons the other day. Did anybody see that documentary? So he goes to my sister's church in Cardiff, and it was on the BBC around Christmas time. His wife and himself, about 30 years ago, sat down to their Christmas dinner one year. And as they were just about to tuck into their Christmas dinner, the door knocked. So Rob got up to go and open the door. And at the door there was a homeless man. The long and short of it is, him and his wife, they invited the man in and said, come and have Christmas dinner with us. Do you know, he never left. He never left. And there's a great documentary on the BBC if you get a chance to watch it. Helping others can often look like sacrifice. Helping others may stop your plans for a comfortable life. But it reflects the light of Jesus. That's what helping others looks like. Help can look like many things, remembering that it starts at home. It starts through stewarding your home, through supporting family members, through hospitality, opening your homes to others. Do you know, as I was writing it, I was just thinking, like, when was the last time I opened up our home to someone who is in need? Because soon there may not be a church building like this, but it might just be our homes. How can we open up our homes? Help can look like spiritual help as well. And one of the best ways that we can go through this spiritual help is by praying for someone. Mav talked about praying for your children and your grandchildren. In Youth Alpha on Monday, we were going for it, and we were talking about, does God heal today? And we learned about laying on of hands and praying for people and the healing power of God. And I was able to tell them about the amazing testimonies that we've had from this church where God has healed people. Do you know, it begins with light in the home, just helping one another. But then before you know it, you're doing it before others. You're helping others. And then the world will see you for truly who you are as you're helping others. The last one, probably the most important one, is time. Being light of the world is about giving time. Rick Warren says that time is your most precious gift because you have a set amount of it. Let me put it this way. If I give someone money, if I'm generous and I give someone money, I can go to work and I can get more money. If I give someone food, I can go and buy some more food in the shop. If I give someone water, I can go and turn on the tap and get some more. But time, we can't get any more of it. We can't get any more of it. So giving someone your time is the greatest thing that you can do to show them the light of Jesus. It's the greatest thing that you can do. Where does it start? It starts at home. And trust me, in this moment, I'm speaking to myself first. How much time are we giving our wives? How much time are we giving our husbands? Ephesians 5, Paul tells us this. Look carefully then how you walk. He's saying be carefully how you live your life. Not like don't trip. He's saying how you walk your life, be careful. Not as unwise, but as wise. Be wise, he's saying. Make the best use of your time. God has been speaking to me about productivity recently. Are we being productive with our time? Are we just wasting time? Do you know why he says this? Paul finishes by saying this. Because these days are evil. These days are evil. That's why we have to be productive with our time. Because we know that this most precious gift that God gives us, we've got to use it for his benefit. We've got to use it for his benefit. Just a little bit before this, it says, Paul encourages us, walk as children of light. Walk as children of light. And within this, I want us to encourage us, not only to give time to our husbands, our wives, our spouses at home, but also to give time to our children. Time to our children, not just because of giving them time, but give them time with specific moments to point them towards the light of Jesus. Not darkness. Point them to the light of Jesus. Time and time again, teaching our children things of Jesus. Time showing them the light of the good news, which we'll find in the Bible. Time pointing them to generosity. Time pointing them to helping others. Listening to them. But I would say this. Don't give time to your children at the detriment of your spouse. Don't give time to your children at the detriment of your spouse. Don't give so much time to your children that you have no time for anyone else or anything else. And we see this happening more and more in the 21st century. Oh, I can't make church. We've got clubs. I can't do this. I've got clubs. I can't do this. I've got to do this for my child. It does start at home, but more and more it seems that it's taking over our lives. I hope this doesn't come across as harsh. What I mean to say is that we must teach our children as Jesus teaches us. We only have so much time. We only have so much time, and that Jesus points this to us often. We must be productive with our time. For our spouse, for our children, but also for the kingdom. For the kingdom. We are called to home, to family, and children first. But please don't forget, you are called to serve in his kingdom. As we show the light of Jesus by reflecting the time that he has given us, we reflect the love of Jesus. We reflect his love in giving others time. The greatest act of love you can give someone today is to give them your time. That's the greatest act of love that you can do. So I'm just going to finish with this teaching moment that as we become light, that Jesus wants us to be light, it starts at home. Whether you're a grandparent, whether you're a parent, whether you're a child or a grandchild, it starts at home. Then you move to others, and then the world will see you truly for who you are. I want to encourage you to listen. Listen to others. Include others. Have a generous spirit. Help others. And make sure you give that most generous gift that you can give of time. Amen. Thank you, brother.